There in the red jacket, he's got the fundraising hat, so if you feel like contributing, please go ahead and do that. Now, we have a lot of people, a lot of friends that we know, a lot of activists and organizers and people in unions, and true to form, we have coming up next Rolf Gerstenberger, past president of Local 1005 USW. Rolf was one of the pioneers of the anti-Iraq war mobilizations that began in 2002, of course, here in Hamilton, and carried on this fight as the past president of Local 1005 with the United Steelworkers and within the Canadian labor movement itself. So we're proud to have Rolf with us today. Thank you, Rolf.
Thank you, Brandon. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I think it's a very important statement to make. As we said at our Thursday meeting the last few weeks, people should come here just so that they can express that whatever the Canadian government does on this, it's not in our name. We don't agree with what they're doing, and by coming here, we're making that a concrete fact. I listened to the speeches, and I think a lot of things that were said, you know, I would have wanted to say, so I won't repeat. But one thing to try to get a handle on what's going on, I encourage everyone who's computer literate, you should go on the internet and search for Mike Pompeo speech at the Hoover Institute at Stanford University. It's a speech he gave a few days ago. And in there, he actually outlined what the U.S. is up to by assassinating General Soleimani and others. He actually says there that we did this in order to send a message, especially to China and Russia, that they're next if they don't behave the way the U.S. wants. So don't take my word for it. You can Google it. You can read his speech. So all their, justification they tried to give for what they did, they basically, it's now out that this is a message to everyone. In a way, it's the same thing that they did after the Second World War when they dropped the two atom bombs. The war was over. Japan was done. But they dropped those two bombs in order to threaten the whole world that this is what we can do to you if you don't toe the line. So this is a long history of crimes that the U.S. has committed. One thing that is, in my opinion, is significant is that the U.S. in the past, along with their accomplices, has assassinated or tried to assassinate a lot of leaders in the world that they didn't agree with. But it's always been secret, undercover. It's, people find out later whether it was successful or not, but they never came out openly and said, we're going to assassinate someone. So now for them to do it and then to right away and admit that they did it is a whole higher level of danger facing the people of the world and the people of Canada. So it's more important than ever that people leave here and don't be passive about this. It's important that we get and mobilize the Canadian people to oppose what's going on, to oppose the Canadian government, to get us, as speakers have said, to get us out of NATO and NORAD. The reality is, through the NORAD treaty, our armed forces, their commander-in-chief is Donald Trump. He can mobilize, he can organize, he can send us into war, and Canada has nothing to say about it. And if you want to know the treachery, our Minister of Defense, or Minister of War, Sajjan, when the Iraq Parliament voted to get the troops out of Iraq, his answer was that, oh well, it's a lot more difficult than just one vote. And what he didn't elaborate was, yes, because they have to get the U.S. permission to do that. They're under the thumb of the U.S. Armed Forces, the U.S. President, as far as what they can do. So, of course, he's not going to say that. So it's more difficult. We can't just get the troops out. The other part, even as far as what the U.S. did in Iraq when they passed this bill to get the troops out, Trump, basically like a real hooligan, he threatened them. He says, we're not doing this, and not only that, you're going to pay 50% of your oil revenue is going to pay for our troops to be there, and there's no way. So literally, this is how they act, and this is their ally. This is the other thing people should remember. This is an ally. And you know, they overthrew Saddam Hussein, they put their own people in there, now everyone's up in arms, and their answer is to threaten. So they're going to threaten everyone. And Pompeo threatened all the leaders in the world that don't agree with them, that this is what can happen to you. So with that, I really thank everyone again for coming. And we need our troops out. We should get out of NATO and NORAD. But the bigger question is, as my sign here, is we need a government that's anti-war, that's not part of this U.S. war machine. That's a real tough nut to crack. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's right. Canada needs an anti-war government. And like Rolf said, we need the troops out of Iraq. So let's say it. Troops out now. Troops out now. Troops out now. Troops out now. Thank you. Good job, Rolf. And you know, we love to have people from all over the community. We're seeing a lot of widespread opposition to war in the United States and Canada. Support for Trump's military action and further action there is ice cold in the United States. And we've seen many politicians speak out against the war, and we've seen an upsurge in the anti-war movement there. So it's in that context, our next speaker is going to be telling us about a unique opportunity in the next 38 days for each of us to have an impact on one of the most important keys to reducing militarism in the U.S. And Sue Alksness is an American citizen who has lived in Oakville for 20 years. And she's an active volunteer in several political issues in the United States, including the campaign for Medicare for All, reform of the Democratic National Committee, the ranked choice voting effort, and the Bernie Sanders campaign for president. So Sue, thank you very much. Come on up.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased to be here today. And our last speaker talked about the importance of an anti-war government in Canada, and we need an anti-war government in the U.S. as well. And we have a very unique opportunity in this election cycle to actually have the U.S. elect a president who is the strongest against war, against militarism, and in favor of taking a large part of the military budget and putting it into the well-being of people and the planet, and that's Bernie Sanders. So we just heard about what some of the challenges are for the Canadian government in response to America's warmongering. Ordinary citizens in Canada do have some things we can do about the U.S. approach to militarism and global diplomacy. We can actually, as Canadians, volunteer for Bernie's campaign. And you can do it right here in Hamilton. You can do it online. You can text for Bernie if you go to berniesanders.com. You can sign up as a volunteer. You do not need to be a U.S. citizen. You can sign up to volunteer to text for Bernie. They're sending millions of texts to the early primary and caucus states. You can sign up to phone bank for Bernie. You do all this from your computer. It doesn't charge on your phone. We have a couple of we have a Bernie Hamilton group that is volunteering and working together. There's two of the volunteers are here today. I think they're willing to put their hands up. Where's Alex? Here's Alex and Aaron. These people are in the fight. They're in the fight. And they're joined by others in Hamilton. There's going to be canvassing at McMaster University. And one of the things that's happening in 38 days from now, so roughly 5 weeks away, there's going to be a primary among U.S. citizens living all around the world. So any U.S. citizen who's not residing in a state or one of the territories, they can join a primary called Democrats Abroad. And in that primary, they'll be electing delegates to the National Convention. For this convention, for this nominating process for president in 2020 for the Democrats, if we want Bernie to be the candidate, the nominee, he has to go into the convention with all the votes he needs, with all the delegate votes he needs. A brokered convention is going to be very, very hard for Bernie to win against the Democratic establishment. So we need to do the work up front to get him all the delegate votes he needs. So what I'm asking you all to do is to help us find the 1 to 2 million American citizens who are living in Canada. They're very hard to find. They look like the diversity of the U.S. A lot of us talk the same. Maybe you hear my accent from Massachusetts, New York, and Connecticut. But you can help us find them. If you will tell everyone you don't know who's a secret American. You don't know. Tell everyone, whether it's 10 people, whether you have a network of 100, whether it's thousands, whether you have lots of followers on Twitter, let them know that Americans can vote in the Democrats Abroad Global Presidential Primary. All they have to do is join Democrats Abroad, democratsabroad.org, and they will have an opportunity to vote electronically, or they can go in person to a voting center. There's going to be 2 in Hamilton. There's going to be 1 in Kitchener-Waterloo. There's going to be 1 in London. There's going to be 1 in Burlington. There's going to be 1 in Mississauga and in Toronto. They can go in person and cast a vote for Bernie to be the nominee for the Democratic Party. He has a real shot at this, folks. He's doing really well. He's doing well in the polls. He has a volunteer, well, you know, I'm an American, so I want to say a volunteer army. He has a volunteer family of millions of Americans who are fighting for his vision that we all share in our movement, not him, all of us. Just checking my notes that I hit everything. Oh, this is important. So you can volunteer as a Canadian citizen. You don't have to be an American citizen. And the way to learn about that is to go to CanadaForBernie.com. CanadaForBernie.com. So I've told you our challenge to find those hidden, secret, hiding, embarrassed Americans. Find them, tell them they can vote in a primary just for them. They can volunteer for Bernie. They can donate. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you can't donate to the campaign. Please don't, because we don't want to get Bernie in trouble with the FEC. I have a sign-up sheet with me if you want to sign up to volunteer and join the Bernie Hamilton group or the Toronto group or the Canada group. And thank you for all you're doing. Here's for Bernie. Woo!